Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of The Three Schooners. This week's episode is all about games and gaming and all the fun stuff that you used to do when you used to sit around with your friends when you were like 12 years old, you know, playing Call of Duty or Metal Gear Solid or Need for Speed and things like that. We talk about games that we really enjoyed in the past, games that we're looking forward to in the future. And this just so happens to kind of coincide with the week that the Xbox new Series X is coming out and the PlayStation 5. So yeah, guys, enjoy. We recorded this a little while ago. This is why Dave's mic isn't so great, but still great content, guys. That's all that matters, really, isn't it? Okay, have a good one. I'll catch you later, and let's get on the beers.
Get on the beers. That's your civic duty. That's what's most important, and that's what must be done. Beers, beers, beers. Get on the beers, 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 and that's what must be.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to another episode of The Three Schooners. My name is Isaac.
My name's David.
And my name's JJ, and we've done it right for First try, man.
Flow chart. Flow chart.
Have we even got the flow chart this week?
No, we haven't. That's
I love it. Okay. Do you want to? Can we get straight into it with what beers we have?
Yes, absolutely.
I want to go last because I've got something special.
Oh,
I think you should go first, Isaac. You've got some weird ones going on.
Are we all aware of the great grocery store known as Aldi? So Aldi have a great collection of alcohol because it's very cheap. But there's one beer that I've been drinking for years from Aldi. It's called. Sorry, I'm that excited. It's called Storm Brewing Co. as the brewing company. And it's their super dry beer. And for only $34.49 a case, you can get...
How many's in a case? 24. What does a dry beer mean? What does that translate to?
I don't know, but it kind of looks like an Asahi bottle. So I just assume it's kind of like Asahi. But it's really cheap. And it's 5%. And it
Aldi.
up. Yeah.
Aldi.
Sponsors. German engineering, right?
If anyone can hear Dave right now, how good does he sound compared to all the other weeks that were previously recorded?
Do you know what is funny?
This might not be in order. So
yeah. Do you know what is funny? I'm still having trouble with Australia Post. I don't want you as our sponsors. You're fucking terrible at the minute. But I'm still waiting for my really nice microphone from Rode. Hopefully, they've been listening to me begging on the internet. It turns out that I've actually had a better microphone than what I was using the whole time. Isn't that right, boys?
And what
and
was
a camera.
And a camera, yeah.
And your better microphone was literally just iPod headphones, the iPhone headphones.
Yeah, classic iPod headphones. So you'll come to learn, anyone. I'm probably the worst with technology. So yeah,
he's really lucky that he's a handsome boy. That's all I'm saying.
Thanks, mate.
What beer have you got, Dave?
I have got so. Previous on the Three Schooners, we have learned that one of my favorite beers is Fat Yak. Well, I have got Wild Yak. Yeah, that's it. We're going wild, baby. It is a Pacific ale and it's from Matilda Bay. So I also very much like this beer as well. So yeah,
that's my favorite of the Yaks, I reckon.
Yeah, it's real good. Real good.
Nice one.
You've actually got a bottle opener.
I've got a bottle opener, but it was like, do you know the sex machine we had in base? It was that claw machine which got out the sex toys, and then if you didn't do very well, you got a shit. I got this bottle opener. It's a little, if anyone can see that, it's like a little soldier crawling across the ground. He's gone, he's got no head. His head fell off a minute ago. So.
The head was the leverage. Yeah. That's not opening up any
Not
beer.
actually working.
Well, I just used a toothpaste head, but JJ, what beer are you drinking?
I mean, it's really cool, like, because I didn't tell you guys that you were just talking about bottle openers there, right? Because I've got a bottle opener, and on my bottle opener it says for desperados only on my bottle opener. Look at it go. Good. Look at it go. And then, of course, for my beer this week, I do have my Desperado. Fun fact, it's actually my last one left, and it was inside my cake for my birthday. But do you know what is much better than that? Do you know what is much better than that? My glass to put my Desperado in that says, I don't know if we can get this going here, but it says JJ, the Three Schooners. That's what it says right there. So eventually, I think all of us will have one of those glasses. Yeah. And, we can all drink out of that together. So I'm going to use my Desperado's bottle opener to open my Desperado to put it into my Three Schooners glass.
I think that is unreal.
I think that is fantastic. I think that's what I'm going to do. So,
you crack that, and then I think we should all.
Yeah. I mean, it would be great if Dave doesn't, puts himself off mute. That would be great for the podcast, I suppose. That would be smashing.
Hello.
He was busy getting his bottle of beer open, which is fair.
I had to go on an epic adventure to get
right. That's that cracked. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everybody.
And now I have to do this awkward thing where I have to pour a beer into a glass using one good hand and one that doesn't listen to what I tell it to do. Everyone just continue. I'll let you know if I spell it myself.
It's like the evil hand.
It's not going well.
So, Dave, do you want to introduce the topic for this week?
Yes, I do indeed. This is a topic I am very excited about. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna go a little bit retro. We're going to get in touch with our nerd side. It's okay to be a nerd. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. We're getting into retro gaming that we had growing up. So, yeah, that is our topic.
We're not talking Twister. We're not talking Kerplunk. We're not talking frustration. Ain't no Monopoly here. We're talking about computer games. That's what we're talking about.
And for those that are listening, this podcast is recorded in some point in time. It could be last week when you're hearing this. It could be 2 months ago. This is a non-linear, non-timeline episode of the pod.
But here's how to pinpoint it. Here is exactly how to pinpoint it.
No, don't pinpoint it. It's off the block. We don't give any perspective on time.
But it's such a coincidence that we're recording and this happened today.
I don't need to know that.
A thing happened today referring to games. And
yes,
it was a thing.
News.
It was
You're a bad influence, man.
5. Anyway, so
5.
Shall we
might have been released. Anyway, so who's going to start?
I'm going to go.
I'm going to start.
Go
for it, Dave.
Yeah, let's go down the trip down memory lane and let's get into our favorite games. I didn't even mean that to rhyme, but it did. Look at us go.
Before favorite games, what was your first console, Dave? What was your first ever console?
So when I was a kid, my first ever console was a Sega Mega Drive.
Fuck yeah.
I think it was the Genesis. I think it was. And that is a moment in time where my parents realized they fucked up. Because David stopped going outside when I was a little kid. Yeah, back in my day, we didn't have mobile phones and whatnot. Technology wasn't really a thing. We had internet. There was dial-up. We made that horrendous noise when you tried to get onto the internet. Didn't even really know what internet was. But I was given the Sega Mega Drive. So kids out then would play in the street and go on bikes and build shit and hurt themselves and
what
fall
are
out
you
of trees.
talking about? That sounds crazy.
I know, but I got a Sega Mega Drive and we put a stop to all of that. That was my first ever console, and I had hours of fun on that. And that's probably where my love for video games began. And I grew up well into even now I'm 31, I very much love video games. But in my teenage years, I probably got pretty bad with video games to the point where it was starting to affect actually my social skills, which I'll go into. But how was it for you, mate? What was your first one?
So mine. So all right. So the Mega Drive and Sega. So this is getting real nerdy. It has had many different names in different countries and all that kind of stuff. The whole Sega portfolio was very different.
So say that again.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
That was weird.
Sega.
What?
Sega.
Sega.
It's literally the start of the fucking game. Every time.
Meanwhile, in Australia, Sega.
Yeah, fuck it.
Bloody oath, mate.
So, all right. So you say the Mega Drive or the Genesis. I assume you mean the 6-button one with a bit of a loopy kind of thing going on. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're
I
wrong.
did some Googling, right? Because I've had this argument and this discussion with some friends. I'm pretty sure what I had was technically Sega Master System 2, but it said the Sega Mega Drive on it, right?
Okay, so
I had the Master System.
Yeah, because there was 2 different controllers for the Mega Drive. That's why. You did have the 6-button one, which was like the Pro version.
Yep.
It was weird. But there was a 6-button version and a 3-button version. And the 3-button version was my Mega Drive. That's what I remember.
Okay. I had old school one, 2 buttons, 4, and I'm looking at it right now. I'm pretty sure it was the Sega Master System 2 with fucking Alex the Kid and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So we're all Sega kids, right?
But you can't talk about.
We've got no Nintendo fags here.
I became one.
So mine was my stepdad had a Sega Mega Drive, and I used to play FIFA like 95 on it. And I found this cheat where all you had to do was run down the wing, and the game was coded so badly that no other players could get you. So all you had to do was cross on the ball, and you'd score 100% of the time.
Every time.
Yeah.
And he'd had it for ages, and he was like, "How did I not know this? Also, please stop doing that." And then after that, he got a PlayStation. So these still aren't my things yet. I've still not got one. He got a PlayStation, and that was great. But then I got my own first thing, and it was an N64.
Which is the perfect console to have as a kid. I never had it, but it is. You can't deny that it is the perfect kid console.
It was so good, man.
What was this? The N64 or?
Yeah. N64, yeah. And then a weird bit was that do you remember Dreamcasts? I almost got a Dreamcast. They were the weirdest.
Why?
Let's retrace our steps a little bit. You cannot talk about the Sega Mega Drive without talking about the legendary Blue Flash himself, Mr. Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, I was the kid though. I never wanted to be Sonic. You get your mates around. I wanted to be Tails. It was all about Tails, man. He could fly.
Yeah,
what about, is it Knuckles?
Knuckles was cool.
Knuckles was fucking great. He was
hard as shit.
Yeah.
So I just love, like, as a kid, I was the Sega camp, which was definitely the worst camp, right? Objectively, it sucked compared to the Mario and Nintendo world that they created and the consoles and the longevity versus Sega, which now only makes shitty arcade games, if that. But like, growing up and being that kid that had the shit console or the shit games compared to everyone else, they were talking about their Mario shit and I didn't get it.
Mario was, man. I got obsessed with Mario again because I was lucky. Shout out to the good old Mashd'n'Kutcher boys once again. Those boys got sponsored by Nintendo to go and do an advert for them, and they got all this stuff. They got flown out to all these places and done a video for them, and they got given Nintendo Switches, and they gave me a Nintendo Switch.
Aww. No way.
Yeah, man.
So they did a video or did promo for Nintendo. That's incredible.
Yeah. For I think it was the new Smash Brothers they done it for.
Yeah.
And they gave me a Nintendo, and I started playing Mario again. I said, Jesus, man, this is great. Like, it's the simplest game.
I never really got into Mario. I never really played it.
Mario Kart, surely.
Yeah, Mario Kart, mate. That's a classic.
Mario Kart I never played as a kid, but we downloaded it onto the computers in year 12, which we weren't meant to do. Everything was meant to be network locked, but we found a way to do it. So and in our spare periods, we would just play on the computers in the school, just Mario Kart for hours, just ripping through it.
Yeah, with fucking bananas. Oh man, and the little lightning bolts would shrink you. Fuck you, does that? You're in the lead, and then someone lightning bolts you. You're a fucking
screen
cunt.
watching. For those that don't know, if you're playing on the same console, not like nowadays where you're in different places in the world, whatever. Old school, everyone had to be in the same spot, right? So you'd be watching the other person's screen. If they're about to go over a jump, you'd activate your lightning bolt, they would spin out and then they would fall off the cliff and then they have to be fucking get brought back up by the little monkey thing. It was great.
And then you storm out the room and you go home to your mum and you be like, oh, this thing's a fucking prick.
I have a great, okay, wait, just since you said that, I have a great friend named Callum, right? He's one of my best friends. For a while there, he would have been my best man. I would have been his best man. He was the Ted Mosby to my Barney Stinson kind of thing, right? And at his birthday once, he invited me, his primary school best friend, another high school friend, which is where I knew him from. And we had, the four of us played Bang or Buzz. It was on PlayStation 2. Buzz.
Oh, yeah, the quiz game,
right?
Yeah.
And in Buzz, you can gang up on each other and steal points, right? That's part of the game. And because it was his birthday, I thought it'd be real funny to steal points from the birthday boy. But then because I did it, Alex also did it. And then Anthony, the other friend, also did it. So Callum kept getting his points stolen. So on his birthday, he ended up with like no points. And at the end
Fuck
of the
you,
game,
Callum.
at the end of the game, he like throws his controller down and he goes, if you guys don't respect me on my birthday, you guys are going to go home. Like, his 14th birthday.
So Dave, what was your first game?
Whoa.
That is, I just remember early days playing Sonic the Hedgehog over and over and over again. The first game that I really ever connected to, and I talked about this in one of the previous podcasts, first ever game I really was like, this is the best thing ever, was Zelda Ocarina of Time. Like on the N64, it was this open world adventure game, you know, and boys, I like fantasy and sci-fi. It doesn't mean I go when no one's looking, I dress up in a wizard's costume and run around with flat.
You're a
Definitely
liar.
does. Elise has told us.
After curfew, there I am in the park just running around. Oh, Dave's at it again. I'm a wizard.
The police are coming at you and go, Wingardium Leviosa.
Yeah. But yeah, that just connected with me. It was big open world and you go on this quest and you get... Ocarina of Time was legendary, man. It was just the fact you could go forwards and backwards in time. So you started off as a kid and then you go up to being an adult. It kind of connects with you as a kid as well, because what is it? Whenever you're a kid, what do you want to do? You just want to grow up. You just want to be an adult. You just want to do what adults... You're doing it in a video game. I think that's kind of connected. But yeah, Zelda was a big one for me on the N64. And then you had what on the other N64? That's probably the first time I played Mario as well, because you had Mario 64 and it was like 3D. I never really played Mario when it was 2D. I never got on that.
Yeah, that 3D one was great, man. That was so good. Did you ever play a game called Banjo-Kazooie?
Yep. I didn't have it personally, but I played it elsewhere. I had people that had it and all that kind of stuff.
And I was in that prime. I was in that prime age.
I swear I had friends.
Well, no, that's the thing. I lost all my friends back then because I was obsessed with the N64. You know?
See, that was a bonding point for me. The amount of mates I had that also had games, whether it be different consoles, same consoles, whatever, and you'd go over and all you do is just play games next to them. Yeah. And then you're like, their mums or my mum would like bring food and be like, thanks. And then you're still playing and you're like, and you're not just playing, you're like moving your head left and right and you're jolting because
I remember. So are you one of those people? Because there's always those people who do the driver game, and anyone watching now, you'll be doing the driver game, and there's either those people who just sit perfectly still, aka the normal people, or there's the people who'll go and lean to the side.
Like driving game wise, I don't think there was much that was better than Need for Speed Underground. I think that was the best game.
I missed that.
So that, man.
You missed it or you miss it?
No, I missed it.
What do you mean?
I missed it. Yeah.
You missed it.
I'm aware of it and I understand it's got the best soundtrack of all time other than Grand Theft Auto Vice City and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. But
solid choices.
Yeah, great choices. But yeah, that game was unreal. Everyone wants it to be remade now so badly.
I don't know why it's not been, because I mentioned this in another podcast, but they had things like the sprint and stuff like that. It's just terrible. But Underground, I knew that game inside. I'd easily say That's the game I spent my most time playing. And you're Inside Out. I could do the courses in either direction. I loved it. And it needs to come back because it was so good.
Well, fuck yeah. Fuck your Need for Speed Underground. We're missing out on fucking GoldenEye. GoldenEye, man.
Oh.
That was on N64, and you're running around with your bloody AK-47. And
I was playing that the other night.
That's getting remade now, though.
Yeah, well, I've heard people... So you'll say you've got an emulator, haven't you? And you said you played it.
No. I have a legitimate N64 that I've paid for, and all the games are legitimate. And I don't have an emulator at all.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Is that just for copyright purposes?
That's for copyright purposes, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. I don't want to get sued by Nintendo.
I've heard that it's not as good. If you go back and play it, it's not as good as yours.
It's terrible.
Oh, okay.
I tell you what game introduced me to gaming. My uncle, so two of my uncles, both work in IT. And
look at Isaac showing off that he's got uncles that have got jobs.
One of them, I'm pretty sure it was Jim, gave me just a floppy disk or a bunch of floppy disks with just a bunch of games on it.
Thank goodness you said disk after that.
My uncle gave me his dick. No. Bunch of floppy disks, and one of them or a few of them had the Duke Nukem series on them, right? And this is old school Duke Nukem, back when he was 2D. Before you had Dick John, or whatever his name is, voicing him, you just had this like weird 2D little jumping guy. And it was like just after I used to play like Captain Comic, which is like old school. If you don't know what Captain Comic is, that's like old school MS-DOS video games, right? And I'm the youngest one here. So
I don't know what that is.
If you don't know, I'm going to show at the end of this. But anyways, so Duke Nukem back in 2D, but because it was on weird floppy disks, there was like all these cheats written into it. So like you could go in and you could just pick which level you wanted to go into and all this shit. So I just got fully immersed into this like game where you shoot a bunch of people at like age 3. And I was like, right, this is my life now. I play video games and I'm a gamer. And it just grew from there.
I like the term video game. It's such a specific thing. It's very 80s, isn't it? Video games. Because
Well, I watched a documentary on Netflix the other day called High Score, and it talks about the gaming industry and how it came. It's such a good documentary. But it obviously starts off with Space Invaders. Now, my dad, hello, father, if you're listening. The father that he was, he loved to go into the pub, and he'd take me down to the pub, and they had a Space Invaders arcade machine. So he'd go to the pub, get a pint, and he'd get me like a packet of Scampi fries, if you've ever had them. Fucking
Scampi fries, man.
Yeah. He'd get me a packet.
I've heard of you guys talk about this. So you English and Irish and Scottish guys talk about this all the time.
Scampi fries are one of the things that you either love or hate, or you learn to love.
I'm going to get you some Scampi fries, man.
What are they, though?
They're the worst smelling thing on the planet, but they're the tastiest thing.
Yeah. They're like this big, if you're looking on the camera, and they're like these crispy little squares, and they taste like fish. But I know this sounds...
Nothing you just said sounded
No,
good.
it does everything about them.
They're really small. They smell bad. It tastes like fish. It sounds like my penis.
Yeah, fair.
By the way, ladies, I am single, just in case you were wondering.
Just in case anyone was wondering.
Everything about them's off-putting. Like if you were the marketing developer for that brand, I didn't envy your job. You had a really small smell of fish, and you don't like them until you put them in your mouth. But you've got to put them in your mouth first, and then you'll love them. You've
practiced that, haven't you?
Guess who was the marketing developer? I'll get you a packet of Scampi fries. But yeah, so my dad would take me down to the pub, get me a bottle of pop and a packet of Scampi fries, and I was like,
bottle of pop? Are you American? What was
English,
that?
Man? Ugh.
Bottle of soda.
What do you call it when you've got, the drink that you pour water into?
What?
Cordial. Cordial. What do you call it, Dave?
Cordial.
Do you call it squash?
Yeah, sometimes. It depends if I'm wearing that velvet glove and feeling a bit bougie.
In Scotland we call it diluting juice. It's
Loot and juice. I
Dilute
mean, that's
juice.
what it is.
It's juice that you dilute.
And in Glasgow, they just drink it straight and they call it your morning pickup. Yeah. So anyway, back to the story. Yeah, get him a bottle of squash. And I'd be like, Dad, I want to play Space Invaders. And he'd be like, all right, shut up. I just want to drink pints. So he put me on the machine. But back in those days, though, this was the Space Invaders machine actually paid out money when you won. So some would say it's gambling. Some would say it's gambling. And I was like 8. So it's probably highly illegal. But my dad realised that when I was winning and I was actually quite good at it, it was paying out money. So what he'd do is he'd give me £1 to put in the machine, and all the money I'd win, he'd just use it to buy pints in for himself, really. I was like, Dad, can I come to the pub with you today? He's like, yeah, you bloody can, son.
That's 3 extra pints.
So that was child extortion by my father. So thanks, Dad.
That's great. You've gamified alcoholism. Fantastic. That's what you've done there.
That's crazy.
Top points to Dave's dad, but also.
You know what? If anyone ever asks him about it, he'll deny it or not remember it. And he's a smart guy.
Is it because he was drunk the whole time?
Yeah. I come home and my mum's like, "Did you have fun?" Yeah, Space Invaders were great. My dad's just absolutely fucking sloshed.
So Isaac, what was your game? What was your one game?
Right. So it's New Year's Eve. I reckon 97 or something like that. I don't actually know the year. That's out of my ass. But it's New Year's Eve. I'm playing this game. I've been playing it for a while. Could never get past the first level. Real complex game, more of an adult game. And the boss in the first level is this stained glass. So it's the stained glass window that gets cursed and it becomes alive and you have to kill it. And that's the first level, right?
What the fuck were your parents for you, didn't you?
Never beaten it, right? I beat it on New Year's Eve, and then my dad freaks out because he'd helped me a few times. We couldn't get it. He freaks out. I was like, right, we're not going to turn the PlayStation off until tomorrow or the day after when all the shops open and we can get you a memory card, because I'd never needed a memory card before this, right? So I just left the PlayStation open, draining energy, and the game was called Medieval. I don't know if any of you have played it.
I remember
on PlayStation 1.
Yep.
It was, you were an undead, so you had died in war and you'd been brought back to life as a dead hero to save the world, and all that. You were Sir Daniel Fortescue. It was my favorite game by far.
And you were the little skull guy, and then man, I remember that. In the second one,
you could take off your head. Because you're a skeleton, you could take off your head, put it on these zombie hands, control the zombie hands, and go underneath doors and shit. It was such a good game. They've remade it real recently on PlayStation 4, and I would buy a PS4 almost, or rent one just so I could play this game.
Man,
well, speaking of PlayStation 4, I have just bought. Were you learning how the audience are really learning what big nerds we are here? Yeah, my allergies. But I've just downloaded Streets of Rage 4. Whoa. So I used to play Streets of Rage 1 on the Sega Mega Drive. It was the side-scrolling one where you have to fight crime. Shout out to JJ, though, and he came round the other day quickly. And obviously JJ has the issues with his left hand.
Right hand, so the left hand,
right hand, sorry.
Right hand doesn't.
And I was like, do you want to jump on this? He was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. That's like the perfect game for him because he's just guiding his character and then mashing the other buttons with his hands. I was stuck on this boss. I was like, do you want to have a crack at this? But he flattened the boss in like 2 seconds. Like, that's when games match up with cerebral palsy, you know?
Yeah, absolutely nailed it. By the way, like, I found my game. I'm great at it.
Yeah. So no, Streets of Rage. That was one. I remember on the Sega as well, the hardest game known to man, and anyone who played this will probably agree with me. Aladdin. Aladdin on the Sega was ridiculously hard.
I've read this. I never played it, but I've read this on real nerd.
So hard.
Yeah.
And Lion King wasn't far off, and I completed Lion King once.
Absolutely.
And I fucking was always playing Lion King. And they were fucking nails. Yeah, if you've beaten those games, hats off to you.
I tell you, all right, this is the weird thing about video games, and this is going to get real bit in depth, but I think if I didn't play so many video games as a kid, I would not be as good at solving problems. And at uni, when I was at uni and high school, all these like other, just given a problem with almost no instructions or very basic instructions, like you need to work on your reflexes, work on your problem solving skills, and complete it, right? And then I was one of those kids that wanted to complete everything 100%. So I would play Grand Theft Auto Vice City and find every single hidden package. I've currently got to save somewhere, I think on this, is it on the computer or my PlayStation? Probably on the computer, where I've got 97 of 100 hidden packages, right? Which is just dumb. You just find them. If you haven't played Vice City, you basically like jump on top of a building and then there's like this little floating thing that you collect. It means nothing. Every 10, you get a new car in your garage. But I would spend hours finding every single hidden package. And for me, it was like, I need to win. I need to complete it completely. And I need to solve all of the problems. And I think as I've grown older, those skills have stayed with me 110%.
Well, they do say that. They've done studies where they say people who play video games, their problem reasoning or something like the scientific term increases. Like they
but their linguistics definitely don't.
No, and their social skills definitely not.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about there is a problem I'd say I faced in secondary school, where I had grown up with video games, and then by secondary school, I was getting very obsessed with them. And I wasn't the most popular kid in school. You know, I was like, I had little glasses on, a shaved head, and I was just a bit of a dweeb, and I was a prime target for bullies or whatever. Little sob story coming on. But I'd go home and straight away just go on to computer games and play on the PlayStation 2. And honestly, week in, week out, it would be like that. Weekends, I wouldn't really go out with my friends. There was days where I'd spend like 12 hours on a video game. Now looking back, I was like, that was incredibly unhealthy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was having a great time back then, but I didn't realize the damage it was doing in my development. And it got to the point where I was 16 or 17, and I was a proper geek, mate. And I didn't know really I look back and I made some cringe-worthy decisions in high school when I was just socially interacting with people, because I'd secluded myself from the outside world, so I hadn't developed proper social skills. And, looking back, looking back, I realized it in my early 20s or, my late teenager years. I realized where I was kind of going wrong. And then I kind of went full opposite, and I was trying to be really cool and trying to fit in and all that. And I went down that path. And now in my late 20s and all that, I look back and I go, it's actually all right to be a nerd.
Late 20s. Aren't you 30, Dave?
Yeah. No, I'm 20.
Trying to be cool, dyeing his hair blonde.
Yeah, this is me having a quarter-life crisis, yeah. But now looking back, it's okay to be a nerd. It's not okay to be an obsessive nerd. Where it's just consumed.
Just throw a bunch of the audience under the bus. You're obsessive nerd? Not okay.
I would you know what? I'd say, there's definitely a balance there somewhere. But those obsessive nerds are the guys that, literally grow up to be rocket scientists. Those are your Elon Musks. Those are your Bill Gateses and your Steve Jobs. I think there's definitely a place in the world for those people.
I am going to disagree with you though, because there's there's them people. But then there's also the people who could grow up and go on to do dastardly things like
absolutely.
Play a violent game and then end up beating up their mate to the
There's a balance there somewhere, and there's obviously also common sense and just being a human being,
and deep-seated issues. Like So in Australia, there was this big issue in 2010 about the Information Privacy Act and all this crap. And they basically were going to put all these restrictions on the internet, but it also went into video games, and they banned all R-rated video games, right? So every game that was considered R-rated, so 18 plus in any other country, had to be censored for Australia because of violence. If a video game is violent, it leads to violent behavior, which is not at all proven.
I mean, that's definitely not how that works, because if that was the case, I mean, I played Pac-Man a lot. I'd be running about a dark room
Eating people.
eating little pills that we find lying about the place.
I would do that. Have you ever heard of a game called Postal?
Mate, no, but I think I know exactly what it's about.
So if you've heard of the term going postal,
do you know where it comes from, the phrase postal? Going postal?
Because is it the US post workers are crazy or some shit?
There was like 2 mass shootings from postal workers within their own, like they just walked into their job and started shooting people.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so this video game is basically you just go around. It's like Grand Theft Auto on fucking steroids, right? Your job is just to kill people to the point where you pick up a cat, put it on your gun, and it silences the gun because every time you shoot, the cat just goes meow, 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 meow. Right, it's fucked. It is absolutely fucked. But this game, they made Postal 3, and that did not get released in Australia. And Australia was basically like, we don't want people shooting people on the street, despite the fact they can't get guns.
Yeah.
But there's all these scientists and people that actually know their shit that are like, well, you can't blame violent video games. It's just like violent movies. It's just like violent anything. If there's deep-seated issues, then yes, maybe these might bring it to the surface. But that means there's something wrong there that we need to tackle anyway. Like you don't ban the violent media just because they haven't had the help through their childhood that they needed.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
My going on that, like, do video games cause violence? Shout out to my cousin Ross Hollett.
In prison currently.
Yeah, he shoved a cat on the end of a gun. But no, he's a very, very, I look up to Ross. Ross, if you're listening, you're a genius. But he is over in Perth. He lives in an area called Joondalup, and he's the very intelligent one of the family. And he works at he works at Joondalup University, and he does all stuff like lecturing, and he does studies and stuff like that. And he did a study to do with video games cause violence. He's done loads of other great studies. He was a very big champion of when you go to festivals, get your drugs tested, just so you know what's in them. He did a trial like that as well. But yeah, he did one. He had a camera, from what I remember him telling me, he had a camera that tracked your eye movements when you're playing these video games. It was like games like Grand Theft Auto and all that. So yeah, it was pretty clever. He did a study on it to see.
And what was the results?
Well, I don't know if he completed it. Yay! See what I did there? Completed it. Yeah. Well, no? Okay.
So I'm going to ask a question, right? And I want an answer from each of you, and then I'll give my answer. We're all from different countries here.
Yep.
What famous game has came from your country?
Oh, what's the name? Fuck.
I'd say England would have been, the only studio I can think of that was English that did a famous game was Fable. The company that did Fable.
Yeah.
Because I used to play that all the time, and I know they were an English company.
Cool. Yeah, fair. Isaac, that's quite a good one, actually, Dave.
I mean, I just tried to Google it because there's a specific video game I got in mind, but we're weird. So we've got an EA Studios in Melbourne.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Which our friend Harriet, if you ever listen to this when you're done getting pissed in Darwin, she worked there for 6 months.
What?
Yeah, she was a PA. She was
a PA for EA.
Yep. PA.
Did not know this.
Yeah, so apparently they had a chill out room, and when she was real hungover from Boozy Bingo, she would just go in the chill out room and pretend she's chilling out, but really she'd just be hungover and just pass out there. You know all these stories. I'm like, right, first of all, you work for EA, marry me. Second of all, that's such a good job. But there it's the mobile wing. So it was just mobile games. But I tried to quickly Google it because we don't have a lot. But there was this at the Australian Centre of Moving Image. If you ever do come to Melbourne after or maybe COVID doesn't exist anymore when you hear this. Who knows? Timeless. But there is my favorite museum in Australia is called ACME, Australian Centre of Image, which is at Flinders Street Station or at Fed Square. And it's got like a video game museum-y kind of thing going on there. And one of the things there is about Australian history in media. And it's got this video game there that's like real Australian, use like a boomerang as a weapon and all this kind of shit. And it's basically like Crash Bandicoot, Banjo-Kazooie, all of those kind of games combined into an Australian version. And I have spent many hours going to Acme over the 10 years that I've lived. You're
only 10 years old. Wow.
Whilst that game's been there. 10 years I've been there. I'd go in there and every time be like, I'll play it a little bit longer. I'll play that game. But other than that, I have no idea what games have been made in Australia.
I mean, if anyone's listening that does know any games that have been made in Australia, comment on...
Oh, right. I got one.
We've got a commenter.
LA Noire.
Oh, yeah, mate, I know the guy that was the advertising guy for
Done.
that.
LA Noire was apparently made in Australia. Definitely not an Australian game.
One of the guys that I worked with at Tesla, he was the advertising guy. He literally, every single advert for that was done through him.
Yeah. What do you mean? Like he did the voice or?
No. See the advert, like the posters and all that. He was the head of advertising for it.
JJ's just talking to me and like, you've got a really good voice, man. You should do adverts.
All right. What Scottish games exist? Because
this is where I think it was going.
Don't search it because I know you're looking at it. But I don't know
because I found the game that I was referring to. It's
okay. What was the game?
The Tasmanian Tiger.
Solid, right?
But I've never heard of it. Yeah, go on.
So I don't know if you've heard of a little game. You might not have heard of it before. It's called Grand Theft Auto, right?
Fuck off.
It might be a little company called Rockstar that are from Edinburgh.
Is Rockstar from Edinburgh?
Yeah, man. Fuck yeah.
So, Rockstar's my fucking favorite game developer.
Do Grand Theft Auto 3, where you like loads of, it's sick as fuck, but loads of people would get a prostitute, have sex with them, and then beat them up. That was
you wouldn't do that, right? Elise,
no, not in real life. I mean, not that people know of. But that is a joke, by the way, really poor taste joke. However, it makes more sense now you've just said it was made in Edinburgh. I'm going to get hate mail from Edinburgh.
Edinburgh's pish anyway. But yeah, so a little company called Rockstars from Edinburgh. It's really cool. Like a lot of the guys, a lot of the DJs around Scotland ended up with their own radio station in Grand Theft Auto. So you've got things like Soulwax FM and things like that. And these are all guys from...
Right. Well, hold up. Do you know anyone from Emotion 98.3?
I am the voice.
If you fucking... I was... Emotion 98.3, I downloaded the whole thing and put it into my WinMX playlist.
I remember that.
Oh. Yeah. Not Windows Media Player, WinMX, right? And I had the whole fucking... Grand Theft Auto Vice City, Emotion 98.3 soundtrack playing constantly.
The soundtrack to Vice City was...
It was the best thing ever.
Incredible.
Tempted by the fruit of another.
Last night a DJ saved my life, and so many good songs on that game.
So good.
So I think Grand Theft Auto also holds the record for the most amount of money made by any form of media in 24 hours. I don't know if that still stands.
Really?
I'm going to do a quick Google here.
What do you mean by any form?
Are you referring to are you talking about pre-orders or are you talking about...
Grand Theft Auto.
It could be in-game sales when online got released. I know Grand Theft Auto 5 online.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely 100% right on this. Grand Theft Auto 5 made $800 million in the first day of sales.
That was ridiculous.
What, pre-sales or?
No, well, first 24 hours on sale. Yeah. So
Jesus. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. Grand Theft Auto is by far it's the best game series. It is the best game series. It's just obviously immersive as fuck, but it's just fucking sick. like just the life, like you get to live the life that you, not that you want to, because that's questionable morals.
Parts of it. Yeah, absolutely.
There's no repercussions. There's no repercussions.
Yeah, it's like living a movie. day in and day out, and doing another.
Which is an interesting theory, and I think like Black Mirror or probably or something has done this. But like, what if you were in a world where the handcuffs are basically taken off? What type of person do you become? It's kind of fucking dark, man. Because without the constraints of regular life, what type of person are you?
I don't know, man. I do a lot of the things that I want to do every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's me on Grand Theft Auto doing the speed limit, indicating that.
Have you ever tried to abide by any of the road laws?
Yeah, I tried it once.
Yeah,
it's
so
hard. Why is this harder than real life?
Go on, JJ.
We're nearly 1 hour into this, and we've kind of we've mentioned it once, but we've not spoke about it properly. Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Now.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1, 2, and I'm just going to throw 3 in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because, what a game.
Even Underground, though. Underground abolished the idea of time limits. You no longer had to do all of these tricks in 2 minutes. You could just go in almost like a sandbox environment and just skate. Like the whole series, it brought skateboarding from being this thing that people with really baggy jeans did in like parts of America into being like a sport that the rest of the world knew about.
Yeah. The X Games became huge.
Yeah.
That was about the time that people like Bam Margera and things like that were coming through.
Yeah, Bam was fucking legendary. Yeah. You had Rodney Mullen. Rodney Mullen was the one that just did like floor stuff.
Yeah, it's great. And a big Tony. My missus Yasmin's met Tony Hawk.
Really?
Yeah.
What's he like? What did you say?
He's really good at skating, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, hope so. You really do.
And okay, so that's one game that we've spoke about. Another one that I wasn't really a fan of, but I don't think we can talk about gaming without mentioning it, is Call of Duty.
That was not really my. Never played it other than at a friend's house I went to PAX, which is like a big festival in Australia. I went to a few random game festivals at the exhibition center. I'd play it there, but I've never owned a Call of Duty in my life.
I think Call of Duty now has became... Call of Duty is one of those games where I'm talking about when I was a nerd and all that and still am, but like it was uncool to be seen playing video games. Like, oh, you play video games? Oh, you're a fucking nerd. Now some games, I believe, are cool to play. Call of Duty is one of them now. I think now in this day and age,
Call of Duty's always just been a cool game. It's a shit game in my opinion. So, all right, when it first came about, you had Counter-Strike. That was a shooting game that was 10 times better. But I was a PC gamer. When I graduated from PlayStation, I went to PC. So for me, you had Counter-Strikes, you had your fucking all that kind of shit that shut all over Call of Duty, but Call of Duty just had this mass marketing appeal. Yeah. And then I reckon they semi-revolutionized it by putting in real voice actors from movies and all that kind of stuff and making games more of a media that was something that's more approachable and acceptable and not necessarily challenging or this or that. It was just appealing to everyone. And then they really jammed that down everyone's throat with their millions of dollars of advertising.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I was never really a PC gamer, but when I did go over to PC, one of the games I became obsessed with on PC, like obsessed, was Half-Life.
Oh my God, I didn't know you were going to say that. I honestly I would suck the dick of Gabe Newell. I'm sorry, but Half-Life 2, I discovered it when I was at a Harvey Norman, which is a big retailer in Australia, or was. I found this game. It was all glistening. I picked it up and it said 48 real-life muscles in everyone's face. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And bought it because it was on special for $10. I plugged it in. It blew my fucking mind.
Half-Life 2 is incredible to the point where Half-Life 2 because I'm presuming you did so Half-Life 1 has a cult following, you've played Half-Life 1, okay? So Half-Life 1 just exploded onto the scene. It's a kind of survival game.
You got me really excited, I'm sorry.
If you haven't played Half-Life 1, I don't know where you've fucking been, or you're too cool for us. But Half-Life 1 really...
I haven't played it.
right, fuck off. It's the two schooners now.
Half-Life 1 revolutionized
it was kind of horror gaming and
first generation first person shooting, right? It had all these little aspects that were copied in terms of problem solving whilst shooting people, and all these little things that kind of grew, and storytelling in a video game. Then when Half-Life 2 came out, the graphics were revolutionary. So it used so you might be aware of Steam or Valve or any of these terms. That was Half-Life 2 came out, and then all of these things came out of Half-Life 2, right? So you had the original Half-Life 2, and then Episode 1 and Episode 2, which all had some of the best graphics ever. But it wasn't just graphics that are like, oh, it's pretty. It was about creating emotion in characters' faces and creating a story that paired with that emotion. Then from that, they created Portal 1, which had the most unique fucking physics system in the world, where you could throw something through a wall and it came out somewhere else due to portals that you shot. Then Portal 2 came out. Then you had Team Fortress. Like Half-Life 1 was obviously unbelievable for them, but Half-Life 2 was this standing point where Steam is now the biggest distributor of video games for PCs, right? And it all came from Half-Life 2. And that's where it all stemmed from. And for me, when I found that DVD box set of, it was Half-Life 2 at that Harvey Norman, that changed my life. And I followed that shit. I remember being in IT class at university, first year uni, when Portal 2 had been announced and it was up for pre-sale, and it was being released sometime between now and 12 days from now, right? They didn't have a specific date. They said, the more you guys solve this weird online puzzle, the sooner it will be released. So all these nerds went to the internet and you did all this shit, and it had something to do with potatoes. I don't fucking know. It was real weird. And I remember it came out whilst I was in class, and I just stopped and I was like, I'm about to leave this class and go home and play Portal 2.
Half-Life 2 as well, Episode 2.
Oh, don't.
Is known in gaming as one of the biggest cliffhangers, because I don't want to spoil it for anything, but something massive happens.
And then Half-Life 3 never came out. It never came out.
Episode 2, something massive happens. And that was it's got to be over 10 years ago. And they've never released what happens.
Why have they never brought out the thing?
Right. I don't know.
So JJ, you're so unaware of, they're cunts, right? They would post source code in some of their games that would have this little inkling, and it would be, if you decoded it, it would be a JPEG that was like Portal 2 is coming, right? So they had all of these things in depth in all these games, and because they knew their audience were coders and this and that, they could put everything there and put in the file name of this real unique file, and it said like HL3, Half-Life 3 is coming, right? And you'd read it and you'd be like, fuck, it's coming, right? So all of these forums would be like, oh, Gabe, who is the CEO of Valve, Gabe said that this is happening, therefore the newest one's coming out, right? For 13 years or some shit, he's been saying this, right? Eventually, they released a new Half-Life. I don't know if you know this, Dave.
Yeah.
Recently, they released it. It's Half-Life Alyx, but all it was basically just a VR demo. So they own a bunch of VR material and distributors and all this kind of stuff, and they want VR to be the next big thing. So they made this VR version of Half-Life, which is shit, in my opinion. Not that I've played it, not that I play games much anymore, but it's not what it was. And nostalgia is coming out, and I'm too passionate about this topic, and fuck you, Dave, for bringing this up.
I think that's a great segue on to where you think the future of gaming is going to be.
Porn.
Well, yeah, but, you know.
It's going to be some Minority Report shit, isn't it? Or what is it? What's that one with, what's the Scottish actor? He was in 300.
Oh,
Gerard Butler. What was the game? What was the film he was in? It was like gaming. And
Gamer. It was called.
Gamer was great.
Is that what it's called? Gamer.
Dexter is the villain.
Yeah.
That was a great movie.
But I think that's where we're looking at, man. I think AR and VR.
I think AR more than VR. I think VR short term.
What's AR?
AR is augmented reality, and VR is virtual reality.
Right.
So
explain the difference.
Virtual reality you can't see out. Augmented reality you can see out.
So augmented reality changes so you'll see the room that you're currently in, but there'll be things like there'll be a guy standing in the corner of it, okay? But you'll still be in the room and you'll still see the room that you're in. virtual reality, you put like goggles on and you're in a different space. You know, you're like in an open field or something like that.
I don't want anyone standing in my corner.
Too late. Turn around.
Dun, dun, dun!
Get the fuck out of my flat, and if you're staying there, you're paying rent.
I need help.
So another game I did want to mention, because I'm just trying to rack my brain for games that have got a cultural significance. And I think that Halo is another one.
Yeah, Halo was a game changer.
Halo made Call of... I think Halo paved the way for Call of Duty in a way. Halo was the start of like culture of socially acceptable video games that are even if you're not a nerd, because there is like as a kid I was a bit of a nerd, but I lived in an environment where like being a nerd at school I wasn't bullied or anything like that, like you, Dave. No offense. But that is, it's a reality for a lot of people, especially like in the States. You hear about it a lot. But I think Halo was the first game that kind of was like nerds and cool kids could play video games together, or maybe not together, but just they both played video games, and then that led to Call of Duty in a way. I mean, my timeline could be completely wrong, but I just remember. No,
I kind of agree with that.
And then it kind of paved the way for online teabagging and yelling at people and saying that you fuck their mum, which is what video games is all about.
There's that thing. There was that series called, and this is really shouting out that I'm a nerd. Was Red versus Blue.
Rooster Teeth. Yeah. Is that Rooster Teeth?
Rooster Teeth.
Fuck.
They're like comedians, and they go into an online room and they pretend to be these characters, and they made this comedy series that they posted on YouTube, and they got pretty fucking famous.
Do you remember Machima? Machima was a YouTube.
I know what you're trying to say now.
And they used to just make like a bunch of those kind of videos where it'd be like video clips filmed. Anyways, doesn't matter. Too nerdy for our client.
Right. This is the as far down a rabbit hole I'm going to go, and I'm going to admit to something. And also, I'm only admitting to this because one of my friends phoned me to say they really liked the podcast, and they were like, what are you doing on the next episode? I was like, well, we're going to talk about video games. He's like, are you going to tell them? I was like, I mean, if I don't tell them, you're going to comment all over Facebook calling me out. So this is the curse of being a podcaster. If you tell fibs or stuff that isn't quite true, you're going to get called out on it. So
because we have so many viewers and listeners.
Whoa, I'm going to come out and admit it now. I'm going to admit it. I played World of Warcraft.
Ooh. I wish I did. Is that wrong?
It was the most played game in the world at one point.
Me and a close group of my friends kind of discovered it-ish after the fact, and we were like, why weren't we involved? Like, this was totally up our alley.
I
wanted to do, it's not video games, but I really want to play Dungeons and Dragons.
All right, so do I. Can we have a Dungeons and Dragons night? No. I want to play Dungeons and Dragons. Especially after the community episode. Yeah. Like that made me want to play.
I am out of that. I am out of that. The only time, no, I'm not doing it. And
you can be Dungeon Master.
When I watch Stranger Things, when I watch Stranger Things and they're all playing it in the 80s or whatever, where Stranger Things is set, I was like, oh, they look like they're having fun, but fuck off, you fucking nerds. I'm not playing that. I'm not playing that
I
shit.
am mega into it. I think we should do it. Okay, so we're kind of heading towards the kind of
tail
end of this, right?
Yeah.
And what I want you to do, boys, is I want you to tell me your best memory of playing a game. What is your highlight? When I think back to things, this is my best memory. Okay.
I'm gonna, okay.
Go first.
I'm gonna carry on with that nerd thing. And yes, I played World of Warcraft, and I actually met people on that game, and I met up with them in real life, and that was fucking God knows how many years ago, and they have became some of the greatest friends in my life. And
really?
Also, yes, and
that's how the Three Schooners came to be.
but going to meet them was the strangest thing ever, because it's like I could be meeting up with a fucking predator here. But yeah, I went up and met with them, and I had some boozy nights out with them, and they're actually just normal, cool blokes. And I will admit it is Johnny and Danny. Johnny is the one I talked about. Yeah. Johnny is the one I talked about. He went over to France and quit his job, and Johnny is one of the most influential friends I've ever had in my life, and I met him through a fucking video game.
I love that. That's really good.
That is my best memory.
Good on you, man. That's really nice.
See, I've already said mine, and I would love to have a second, but I don't think there's one that beats the medieval game that I said where I needed a memory card.
Yeah,
and the part that means so much to me as well is like my dad couldn't play video games. My mum couldn't play video games. They both were not inept, but my dad used to watch and like almost like not coach, but just be like, this is how do we solve this problem kind of thing. Right. and he was so involved and so invested that when I beat the level on New Year's Eve, but I didn't have a memory card to save it, he was like, let's just leave it on. I was like, oh no, electricity, or whatever. Like I thought it was going to start a fire or something. I don't know. I was a kid. And he was like, no, we'll just leave it on for as long as we need to until we buy one. And then he came home with the memory card. I didn't go with him. He just came home with it and gave it to me. And then that was like my first time of saving my progress. Because I feel like I don't remember what games I had back then, but the games I had must have been temporary state games where you play and then you finish and you play and you finish, whatever. It wasn't when you needed to save your file. And a game that I'd worked so hard on for so long, and I beat the first bit, and I'd worked with my dad, and I'd done this and that and all that kind of stuff, and I finally beat it. I think that was potentially my best moment in video games. I've had a bunch. I fucking played a bunch, but that one for me was really important.
I think what you're saying there is like where they went out of their way to just do something for you to
support my passion at the time.
Yeah, and my Mom, I love you to absolute fucking bits, but she did something similar. And I think I've never been very intellectual. I've never been very good at school. But I remember in school, I was trying really I've been terrible at maths my whole life. I'm probably on the spectrum or something with it. I just real struggle.
With it, just specifically?
With numbers. I struggle with numbers. And you know, I'd either struggle with a 12 times table. I'm not going to lie.
12? I don't know my 12 times table.
No, I mean up to 12s. Like, one of them. 8 times or what. Anyway, I'm getting detracted. But my mum was like, if you work really hard at your maths in school and you get this result, I'll get you something. And I worked fucking so hard. This is like going from primary school to secondary school. So I must have been like 12, 13 or whatever. And she bought me, I went into Game, which was a retail store chain in the UK. And she bought me Final Fantasy 9, which was my first ever Final Fantasy. And she was just so happy the amount of joy it brought me. And, I got home, I was so excited to play it. I just wanted to throw it in the PlayStation, play it. And she'd come in, she'd be like, you all right? Do you want a cup of tea? How are you getting on with your game? I'm like, it's great, Mum. Thanks, Mum, so much. She didn't have I was like, I've just killed a dragon. She didn't have a fucking clue what I was doing. But it brought my mum so much joy.
Yeah.
Because she had rewarded me something. And she saw how much happiness it brought me. And it was because I worked hard at something.
And that's great. That's a great way of using something like games, because you see so many people now, they're like, I want a game, they get the game, and then it's constant.
There's no so working towards it. Yeah.
It's so accessible. Whereas when we were kids, I feel like games were really expensive. They cost the amount they cost now minus 15 years of inflation, right? But the same, like $80 now, $80 back then. But back then, $80 was fucking expensive, right?
Yeah.
And you weren't able to have a new game every month, 2 months, or however 3 weeks, 1 week, however long much you buy games now. But back then, like you said, like you worked hard. That was probably like 2 months, 3 months of doing maths assignments and then you got it, right? So you had just Mario Kart before then, and now you got this or whatever it was. And it means the world to you But now you can just you got indie games that are free to play and you can just do whatever the fuck you want. And you don't have that satisfaction.
No, you've got a point there, mate.
Games aren't difficult to make anymore. So they're easy to acquire. Just like almost everything now. I mean, that's just consumerism as it grows. But like back then, if you got a new game, that was your new game for 3 months. Like that meant something.
Yeah. Absolutely.
JJ, how about you, mate?
So I had this ritual where I'd probably go away on holiday once a year, right? And this one year that I'd done it, I was maybe like 11 years old, and I'd found this game called Dolphin Olympics 2.
What?
Dolphin Olympics 2, right?
So good. It sounds amazing.
Well, they obviously did good enough to get a number 2 after number 1.
It's really simple. All it is, you're a dolphin. You use your arrow keys to jump out of the water, do a twirl, and you land back in the water. But every time you land back in the water, you get more of a jump boost if you land nicely, right? So you can jump up next time and do 2 twirls, and that gives you more and more of a jump boost. But if you get over a certain height and you cross over like a certain, I don't know, like a certain level, you'll go into a hoop. And if you do that, that gives you a mega jump boost. And eventually you're going past Saturn, right? So you're going past Saturn. And I used to play it every time before I went on holiday. And that was my happiest memory because I knew I'd be going on holiday the next day. Other things are like playing Lemmings. There's a game called Lemmings. And I was doing that with my...
I remember Lemmings, dudes with the little green hair.
Yeah.
And you just stop them from killing themselves.
That's it. It's the silliest game. Lemmings was great.
Lemmings?
Lemmings was amazing. And then you've got, after that, you had Worms, where, you try and...
Worms was unreal. Worms was a great, school game.
Yeah.
I think one of my schools, primary school or high school, had it. And then that was a perfect, and I think they used it for physics. And I'm like, well, this is not for physics. Trajectories and shit. I'm like, no. Tell a game, and you both had Segas, right? Segas,
yeah.
Sega. Did either of you have California Games?
No.
Nah.
California Games was like an Olympics game, but it was made for this Californian bullshit version where it was like a skateboard ramp and a surfing competition, and it was just all these cool Californian games, and it had real cool music, and you had to learn how to ride waves, you had to ride up the skate ramp and all this kind of shit. And it was probably, in my whole Sega career, my favorite Sega game. And then I've looked since then, and it was fucking popular. It was a really decent game, and everyone fucking loved it. But all you did was fucking ride skateboards and surfboards and shit. But it was good shit.
Just quickly, we've all played games. What are you playing now? At this moment in time.
I just downloaded the new Tony Hawk and also FIFA 20. I know it's old, but I got it for $7. So
solid. It's not old. This could be at any point in time.
It could be anywhere.
Yeah.
So my
released
game
in the year 2050.
Yeah. The game I've been playing recently, I don't play a lot of games anymore. I got to a point, I think, when I was 19, where I became a social addict, if you will. And that stems with what we've talked about in the past about being in bars and hosting events and this and that. I need to be around people. I love having people around me constant. All times and talking to people and all that. And most good games are single player. You get some multiplayer games and they're all pretty shit and it's just shooting people and this and that. But so I stopped playing single player games after Half-Life 2 episode 2, sorry. But the only game that I still play that is single player is Hitman Absolution. And I don't know if you guys have played any of the Hitman series.
I know them and I know what it entails, but
all it is being stealthy and fucking killing people, but doing it in ways that don't kill good people. You do it just to kill the bad people.
Kill bad people only, not good people.
But you can do it with cool shit, because it's all based off of games at its essence are based off of paths, right? That's video games. Especially old school video games. And if you play long enough, you watch their paths and they go and piss over there and they come back, and then you go over there and you can chop a wire, and then that wire makes it all electrocuted or whatever. And then he goes over there and he goes to piss, and then he dies because he gets electrocuted from his piss. And then you're only killing him.
What a way to die.
Yeah, and you get bonus points because no one knows that you killed him. You're not an assassin. Yeah, creativity points. It's great. Yeah. What about you guys?
I've literally, which it's probably hands down the longest game I've ever played. And much like you, the reason it's a huge game anyway, but I don't have as much time anymore. Again, my life has became, well, not during pandemic or whatever, but my life was.
What pandemic?
What pandemic?
This could be at any point in time. This could be.
Do you remember that pandemic?
Yeah,
do you remember that pandemic?
Do you remember the pandemic that's about to happen?
Wait! Dun, dun, dun.
COVID 25. But again, yeah, I don't have loads of time to play computer games, so it's also dragged out what is already a massive game, but The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 is one of the greatest games I think I've ever played. And what you're saying about story, single player games, you could get more involved with the story. And I've read a lot of the books, and obviously you've just the series is out on Netflix as well. Henry Cavill plays it and all that. It's became massive, but The Witcher 3, the story on that game is incredible, and it really touches on some real. Games will delve into topics, I find, but they'll only kind of dust along the surface, and they'll, there's the real violent games, but for the most part, they'll only dust along the surface, and they'll never really go into real tough topics. I mean, at one point, the Witcher 3 goes into a topic where this guy's been doing domestic violence and stuff like that, and you get into the story and you're like, this is fucking horrible,
Did you play Skyrim? Because I did
play Skyrim, but The Witcher. One of the missions, it goes into a story, and the guy's like an alcoholic, and he asks you to find his missing wife, and then you find out after doing investigating that he was actually beating his wife. I've never played the game that goes into that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It gets into some real nitty gritty stuff. And the books are very much the same. The books probably go into worse stuff, but hats off to that company, because you actually connect with the story, and you're like, this is fucking awful. Yeah.
Well, that is a lovely way to end things.
Right, let's end it positively.
I'm going to put a question. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
The way the games have developed in the last, let's say 30 years have been from Pong to, virtual reality.
Yep.
What's to say that we're not currently in a game?
Well,
what's to say that we're not currently in a simulation? How do I know that you guys are not just characters in my game?
Well, like the Truman Show. Do you think you're lucky enough to be Truman?
Mate. No.
JJ Show.
Are you implying that you are not an NPC and that we're NPCs?
Yeah, you can't be NPCs because I'm having a discussion with you.
Non-playable characters can have a discussion with you.
No, because I could. You don't know. I could turn into you later. You don't know what level of the game I'm on. I've not got my morph skills up yet. That's when I reach.
You just got to do the Konami code. Up, down, left, right, A, B, A, start, and you're sorted.
That's it. I've got everything. I think there's a huge chance that we could be in a simulation.
We should bring that into the conspiracy theory episode that we keep talking about we're going to do.
We are going to do a conspiracy. I need to do more research for that. But in terms of us being in a video game, I mean, I don't think we are.
No, I don't. Stop smoking crack, JJ.
What makes you think that we're not?
I think that we're too self-aware. Not to say that there couldn't be something way more self-aware about all kinds of things, more than we think there's 3 dimensions and we think there's atoms and all those things could be so disproportionately not a thing, right? All of it could just be not a thing. But I think, I don't know. If you really want to get real deep, religion, right? God created Adam and Eve. Maybe that's a simulation.
Why do Adam and Eve have belly buttons? There's a
I mean,
question for you.
Have you never had sex, JJ? Where you meant to put the penis?
But if
In the belly button.
if Adam and Eve were created by God, why would they have a belly button? They weren't born.
For sex. Duh.
Anyway, that's going to end that.
You two fucking ran away from me then.
I've had a bit to drink and I really need to pee, so it's perfect.
Yes, I'm thinking too. Do you it's a goodbye from me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening.
Speedy exit from JJ.
Yeah, I really need a pee. Thank you for listening once again. We are on all social media, almost.
All of the platforms, all of the things. Basically everything but TikTok, because we don't want the Chinese to watch all of our moves.
I do.
Yeah, but are you going to manage it? Right. All right, here we go. If anyone wants a free position where we don't pay you on anything and you manage our TikTok, message us on thethreeschooners@gmail.com and we will open up a TikTok page and you can add it to your social media fucking portfolio in 2 years' time when you apply for graduate positions. Bam.
And possibly when this episode comes out. Yeah. But yeah, we're on everything. So please subscribe to us on things like YouTube, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Dave?
Goodbye.
Video games.
Yeah. No, thank you as always for listening, guys. And we really appreciate it. And see you next week.
See you next week. Perfect.
I've not stopped recording it.